welcome, visitors, citizens, and the great inventor, to this, the 247th episode of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 28th of February, 2018, and featuring the First Doctor Adventures, The Destination Wars, written by Matt Fitton and starring David Bradley as the Doctor, Claudia Grant as Susan Foreman, Jamie Glover as Ian Chesterton, Gemma Power as Barbara Wright, and James Dreyfus as the Master. And man, that's a mouthful. I am Randy Ronson McCulloch, your host for this evening, and with me is our technical director, Mad Matt Winchell.
I'm going to play Ultima Underworld tomorrow instead of tonight. Whoops.
And color commentators, Aaron Romeo Moon Burke.
Hello.
And Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
I will name him George, and I will love him and pet him and squeeze him and love him and hug him and squeeze him and love him.
I'm not a rabbit.
Note that Thomas Fireheart is still on sabbatical and should be back sometime next month. And we are also short one Bill Sylvia tonight due to an early trip to Philadelphia in the morning. I've never been to Philadelphia. I always wanted to.
I heard they have good steak.
Yeah, but I'd actually like to go to the museums there. Like the Smithsonian.
Oh,
See the Liberty Bell, that kind of thing.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, something I always wanted to do. It was on my list of, if I ever got the chance to drive around country, places I wanted to go. I actually also want to go up to New York and up to Massachusetts and see the sites of the Revolutionary War, but...
Oh, you could,
Vixie
walk
said
the
he
Liberty
has lived
Trail.
there briefly. It was nice.
I've heard it's nice. Anyway, on tonight's show, we have a little experiment we're doing. I am calling it the all-new Faster News. We have gotten complaints that our news takes too long, and yes, it does. So
Go fast.
I spent a good couple hours tonight not only going through the news, but typing it up into as concise little reports as possible. And we are going to try to get through the news as fast as we possibly can. We are still doing birthdays, but it is going to be birthdays abridged. We don't have any Geek Talk tonight. We might next week have a little bit that Aaron and I will probably finally have gone to see Black Panther and can talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a rant this week. No review of Shame this week. We do have Bill's review of it by a previous post on Discord, and I will be relating that as it comes up. So we shouldn't have one next week either. I haven't seen any comments. We're going to forego the 5-minute challenge and just do a regular summary tonight, because we're probably going to have a little time. And then, of course, the episode review, final thoughts, and ratings. So, let's get on to this. Our all-new Faster News and Birthdays. Da-da-da-da! Yeah, I spent so much time on this, I couldn't hire somebody to do the production music for it. I'm sorry.
Oh, well.
All right, so, birthdays. We have 7 birthdays tonight over 3 days, starting on the 24th of November, which was last Saturday, was the birthday of David Gooderson, who played Davros in 1979's Destiny of the Daleks. He turned 77. On Monday, the 26th of February, we had 2 birthdays, one of which is Ingrid Oliver, who played Osgood in the 2013 and 2014 seasons. She turned 41. Also on the same day, Tony Selby, who played Sambalon Glitz during the Trial of a Time Lord and later reprised the role in Dragonfire, turned 80. And then today was the birthday of Murray Gold, the composer from 2005 all the way up to last year, where he was let go after the Christmas special, turned 49. And then Mervyn Pinfield, the associate producer from 1963 to 64, from the beginning of Doctor Who for the first 13 episodes, would have been 106, but died in 1966 at 54. Happy birthday to all those involved that are still alive. And speaking of not alive, Aaron.
All right. Unfortunately, Peter Miles has passed away at the age of 89. Unearthly podcast is sorry to announce the death of Peter Miles. Miles, an actor with a long history acting in BBC shows from 1968 onwards. He was in Doctor Who 3 times. First was in the 1970s, The Silurians, playing Dr. Lawrence, the director of the Wenley Moore Nuclear Research Facility. His second appearance was in 1974's Invasion of the Dinosaurs, where he played Professor Whitaker, the scientist bringing dinosaurs into London from the past. His third, final, and according to him favorite appearance was in 1975's Genesis of the Daleks as Nider, Davros' second in command, a role that he would revisit in Big Finish's Guilt and two stage versions of The Trial of Davros. He also went on to star in many programs, including 1970's Poldark, Moonbase 3, and Blake's 7.
All right. Tragic loss to BBC television. We go on to episode news. Tim.
Yes. First of all, we have 2 confirmations of Doctor Who casting on Twitter surfacing. The first is Marina Stoimanova is set to play a Mud Witch in the current block of filming, Block 3. And also we have heard that Adam Darlington is cast as Man with a Suitcase in Block 1.
All right.
Filming is wrapped up in Gosport, and by all accounts, the Doctor Who cast and crew has returned to Cardiff to begin studio filming for the current block. Outside the studio, there have been 3 location filming areas noted thus far: Gosport, Sheffield, and Cape Town. More reports as we hear further news. Finally, the BBC has been surprisingly tight-lipped thus far about the identity of Chris Chibnall's new writing staff. Chibnall himself is expected to write a few of the season's episodes, including the already filmed first episode, and most likely the series finale. As of this time, the rest of the writers are unknown. But broadcast web editor Robin Parker recently tweeted about a discussion of the issue with Piers Wenger, the BBC head of drama. Wenger is quoted as saying that a number of the scripts for this season were penned by women, and that having a diverse... Hold on, my computer won't... Damn it.
Teleprompter failure.
Teleprompter failure. Fluffer nutters. And that having a diverse team on that show feels appropriate, important, and essential. More as the story progresses.
Okay. So we move now to cast and crew news. And David Tennant, as well as other cast members of the upcoming comedy drama You, Me, and Him, are attending a special premiere of the film to raise money for Baby Lifeline, a charity that is attempting to raise funds to provide maternity and neonatal equipment and services nationwide. Tennant and cast will introduce the film and hold a Q&A afterwards. Other Doctor Who alumni are also confirmed to be attendants, including Peter Davidson and Ingrid Oliver. The premiere is on the 31st of March at Cineworld, Broad Street, Birmingham, and tickets are available from the Baby Lifeline website, which is www.babylifelinetraining.org.uk. Speaking of David Tennant, he sat down with the Big Issue magazine as part of the promo tour for You, Me, and Him. He had been featured in their Letters to My Younger Self column the previous week, where he said that I did like superheroes too, but Doctor Who was my great passion when I was a kid. He elaborated by saying the Doctor felt like someone I could aspire to being like, and maybe he'd want to hang out with me too. I think it's very important there's a kid's hero who's not a jock. That's something I came back to a lot when I was playing the Doctor, and it doesn't leave you when you leave the show. Finally, he added, something which had been so important to me as a child was going to be a big part of my adult life would, in fact, in a way, end up defining it. And that's the news from David Tennant.
Okay, next to the news, Enemy of the World Special Edition release has been delayed by 1 week. BBC Worldwide has announced that they've had to delay the release of the new Enemy of the World Special Edition DVD. Originally scheduled for 19th of March, it is now planned to be out on the 26th.
Okay. We go from video to books.
Okay, books. And my computer is frozen again. Oh, God.
Really? What is up with your computer, man?
I don't know. Maybe I have too many pages open up. Or
Just like with Barry.
How many do you have open?
Well, I just opened up all my news articles.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Shouldn't be that hard. Weird.
Hard on your system, yeah. Maybe it just can't handle the awesome.
Yeah, and there's like nothing. There's no unusual websites tonight. Most of this
Yeah.
was straight from our usual sources.
Maybe you should just do one at a time and keep the list on your side.
All right.
Well, the links are mostly there for Matt to display anyway. I've pretty much typed it all up in conciseness on the document.
Yeah, that's what I should. All right. Come on.
When was the last time you rebooted that thing?
Reboot. What's that?
You know, restart the computer.
Oh, I started it this morning.
Oh, it should still be okay.
Not as bad as some people.
Mm-hmm.
I think my computer's been running since Monday night.
Shame.
Yeah. Maybe I'm having trouble with my browser.
That's a possibility too. It could just be the browser's decided to be
Your browser cache is messing up.
Yeah.
If everything else is still working, you might want to try to force it to close the browser, then restart it with just a couple of windows. Or a couple tabs, rather.
We were supposed to have the shorter news, people, but...
I'm sorry.
Technical difficulties, it happens.
Technical difficulties.
Any luck thus far?
So I'm force quitting. Yeah.
Are you on a Mac or a PC?
I'm on a Mac.
I don't remember how force quitting works on a Mac.
Vixie says his has been up 9 days since the last update.
I remember getting the wonderful Mac bomb. I remember having to zap the PRAM a few times to get it to clear up sometimes.
I keep seeing the magical circular rainbow.
Ooh, rainbow ring of death.
Yeah, that sounds like you need to force a shutdown.
He's trying to.
He's trying to, but you know...
Well, I think he's trying to just close the window, but it's now hung the system. Because I believe he talks to us via phone.
Okay, I'm restoring with most of my tabs closed now. I'm getting back up. Back up and...
Vixie says force quitting is Option Command Escape.
Option Command Escape. Okay. I don't think I ever had to do that on a Mac. But then again, you know, I was in that area where we were still on OS 9 when I started, and we just started OS 10 when I left.
Okay, so BBC novels.
There we go.
There we go.
New Target novelizations of New Who. BBC Books has announced that for the first time, the new series of Doctor Who are getting Target novelizations. Target novelizations have been a key part of the Doctor Who fandom since the mid-1970s, and now 4 of the New Who stories are getting the Target treatment. Including in the list are Rose by Russell T. Davies, The Day of the Doctor by Stephen Moffat, The Christmas Invasion, adapted by Jenny T. Colgan, Twice Upon a Time, adapted by Paul Cornell, and coming out at the same time is the Target novelization of the classic episode City of Death, originally by Douglas Adams and adapted by James Goss.
Now, I think we might have either talked about those on or off the stream, but that's the official announcement. Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember those coming, but okay. That's cool.
Next.
Also newsworthy, the Black Archive gets new range editor. The Black Archive publisher Obverse Books has announced that the Black Archive range has a new editor, Paul Simpson. Simpson is the managing editor for Sci-Fi Bulletin and has been working with the Black Archive for some time now. He is helping bring the Black Archive up to a monthly publication and helping to start the Silver Archive, a sister publication which will give inner details about non-Who related sci-fi.
Okay, and cool. we are on to the Big Finish news. Out now, number 1. The Time War started last Thursday in Big Finish's Gallifrey, The Time War. A 4-story box set written by David Llewellyn, Tim Foley, Scott Hancock, and Matt Fitton, and starring Lala Ward, Louise Jameson, Sophie Aldred, Sean Carlston, Miles Richardson, David Jacobi, and Nicholas Briggs. And I thought the title was long. In it, CIA coordinator Romana and former companions Leela and Ace get involved as the Daleks start their attack on the Time War. As it gets worse, Romana is forced to reincarnate the Master to join the fight. Gallifrey the Time War is purchasable for £23 on CD and $20 on download. Or you can get The War Master, Only the Good, Tales from New Earth, and Gallifrey the Time War together in a bundle for £63 on CD, $54 on download. Also out on last Friday was the next installment of the Fourth Doctor Adventures Series 7, The Crowmarsh Experiment by David Llewellyn and starring Tom Baker and Louise Jameson. In The Crowmarsh Experiment, Leela wakes up apparently in a mental hospital in 1970s Earth. It seems her whole life with the Seven Team, meeting the Doctor and traveling through time and space was a delusion. But is anything real? And why is her Doctor the Doctor? The Crowmarsh Experiment is available individually for £2.99, download, or as part of the Fourth Doctor Adventures Series 7 Volume 1 for £23 on CD and $20 on download. Or you can get Volumes 1 and 2 for £45 CD, £40 download. And finally, out today is the Doctor Who short trip Malevolent, written by Simon A. Forward and starring Bonnie Langford. In Malevolent, Melanie Bush takes a reflective look at the darker side of herself with the help of a mirror in the TARDIS. Malevolent is available from the Big Finish website for download for £2.99. And finally, our last piece of news. Aaron?
All right. We all know that the Doctor Who experience left Cardiff last year when their contract expired, but what we don't know is that they left.
We didn't know, that was a typo. Sorry.
What we didn't know is that when they left, they also left behind a 1.1 million pound deficit Cardiff taxpayers will have to deal with. Apparently, the 2.4 million building that Cardiff built to house the experience was built with the Invest to Save Fund, a Welsh fund set up to support public service organizations in the country. The building was constructed using the fund and was supposed to be repaid by a portion of ticket sales. However, an overestimate on said sales resulted in only a little over half repaid by end of the experience's 5-year run. This leftover will have to be absorbed by the city's budget. However, Cardiff councillor Russell Goodway says they are working on plans for the building with the Welsh government, although nothing has yet been finalized.
Yeah, they've been saying that for about a year too, so we'll see how that goes. All right, that's our news. And we still did it in about 24 minutes, or about 20 minutes, even with Tim's technical difficulties.
Yeah,
Wow.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now all right.
What do we talk about?
Yeah, all right, so that's doable. Might still get a little longer later on when we, actually get a lot more, filming and, the ratings news during the regular series, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Probably our whole format will have to change then anyway if they're going serial-style storylines rather than individual adventures. But again, that's something that we need to actually see what Doctor Who's going to be like
when we get
in
there,
Series 11 to figure out. Okay, so does anybody have anything else they wish to talk about for a couple of minutes here before we go into the review and the summary?
Actually, one slightly geeky thing, if you're interested. A movie trailer or movie teaser actually came out, I think it was in the last couple of days. They're finally doing the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh, yeah, we knew that.
I did not know about that until literally today.
Yeah, Ralph Wrecks the Internet. Yeah, I've been keeping tabs on it.
So, I'm not sure if I would use the word finally. I mean,
no. Finally is what's coming out later this month, and that's the sequel to The Incredibles.
Oh yeah, that was long set, but usually something like Wreck-It Ralph, as popular as that was, they usually push something like that out every couple months. Or every couple of years, rather.
Not Disney. Well, actually, it's only been a couple years since Wreck-It Ralph.
It's been about 3.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Maybe 3 on the outside, but that's still within that, considering this is, Disney Pixar.
I wonder if that's what people said when Return to Oz came out.
Actually, it's been about 6 years since Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
Return
Says it's
to
got to be at
Oz.
least 3. It's probably been more.
I think that's the
Oh.
record for the longest time between movies in a series.
Return to Oz? I don't know.
Yeah, because Wizard of Oz was in 1939. Return to Oz was like 1985.
I remember seeing it in the theater with my mom.
Which, Wizard of Oz or Return to Oz?
Return to Oz.
Never saw it, never cared to.
She thought it was quite horrifying.
She's not
Especially
the only
when-
one.
Well, when they start giving Dorothy electroshock therapy because they think she's insane because she keeps going on and on about visiting Oz.
And then the screaming
Yeah.
heads and the creepy guys on wheels and
the moose head that they bring to life with the magical powder.
Mhm.
Yeah.
there's a
I-
lot of weird headcanon in
You
that
need
movie.
to watch this movie, Ran. You need
This
to watch
sounds like a horrible drug trip.
It's
Yes.
it is kind of a horror movie. It's more of a horror movie than it is
Vixie's scared in our chat.
I think I would have preferred American McGee's Oz.
That's kind of what it's like almost.
Yes, but except for the fact that it's not American McGee.
No, but it might as well have been. It's not super far removed. I mean, it's not super dark, but it's dark enough.
I mean, American McGee is take that storyline and have Tim Burton do it.
Yeah.
I've played through American McGee's Alice, and that's
Which Tim Burton? 90s Tim Burton? 80s Tim Burton?
the Tim Burton that brought us such wonderful things as Edward Scissorhands.
So about 80s Tim Burton. Okay.
Yeah.
Good old vintage Tim Burton.
Vintage Tim Burton. Maybe a touch of 90s Tim Burton as well, but
Just a
not
smidge.
2010s.
Yeah, not the 2000s. That's when he started going south.
Yeah. Anything up to Sweeney Todd. After that, no.
Yeah, after that, it just kind of. Anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. Wreck-It Ralph breaks the internet. Looks like it's going to be a pretty interesting
Yeah,
movie.
that's on my things to watch this list, which this year, which is a pretty hefty list.
Yes,
it's a pretty
it's
big
been
year
a
for
pretty
film.
big list for movies this year that apparently struck a chord with us.
Oh yeah, there's a huge list of stuff I want to go see.
So need to see Black Panther. Going to have to see Infinity War when it comes out.
Ready
I think
Player
that's
One.
May.
Anyone going to go see that?
Oh, Ready Player One. God, yeah, I need to see that.
It's not on my immediate list.
Pacific Rim 2.
That's on my immediate list. Pacific Rim 2 is on my immediate list. Deadpool 2 is on my immediate list. Incredibles 2 is on my immediate list. Solo: A Star Wars Story on my immediate list. Infinity War is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Let's see. There was something else too. I can't remember, but there was at least a couple more movies on that list that I wanted to see this year. On a few I thought I could wait, but Wreck-It Ralph is one of those I want to go see.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic Beasts. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, I actually liked the first Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find a Movie.
I want to see X-Men Dark Phoenix because this is going to be the last not Disney run Fox X-Men movie. And I just want to see it for that level. After this, they're probably going to reboot the entire X-Men stuff and fold it into the MCU. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff I'm probably going to wait to see, but I still want to see it. Things like Super Troopers 2.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing that's happening all of a sudden.
Yeah, that they got that crowdfunded and they made it. Yeah, it's just little things like that. There's like the Venom movie I don't need to see in the theaters, but I can probably wait to see it on like HBO.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait on that one definitely because I don't know. That's Sony again.
Oh yeah, also got to see Aquaman when it comes out.
Hmm.
Only because I want to know how bad it is. And I'm not, and the thing is, what it's going up next to is Bumblebee the movie, which I'm definitely going to wait to see because that's Transformers Bumblebee. The only thing that's making me want to see it at all is it takes place. It's a prequel to the Transformers movie, and in there he's actually a beetle.
Yes.
Awesome.
It's also coming out the same time as Alita Battle Angel.
Which looks odd but interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Have to withhold judgment until seeing that weird one.
Yeah, they're all coming
Yeah.
out on December 21st.
Jeez.
Yeah. Also, Holmes and Watson is apparently coming out, but I don't want to see that because it's Will Ferrell.
Ugh. Never mind. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the film stars Will Ferrell,
Didn't-
John C. Reilly. I'm done.
Didn't they already come out with the comedic? Didn't they already do that? Didn't they
The
come out with that
comedic
already?
Sherlock Holmes, you mean?
Yeah, with Will Ferrell as Sherlock Holmes, because we were all excited
that I'm
about
aware
it
of.
being like the next. We were all excited about it being the third Sherlock Holmes movie in what's his face's run.
Robert Downey.
RDJ's.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were all excited, and then we found out that it was Will Ferrell, and that it was actually a comedy, and that it wasn't done by Guy Ritchie at all. It was just like some
Yeah,
random.
this is the first I've ever heard of
comedic-
it, Aaron. So not as far as I'm aware. It's not
Yeah,
been done
and
yet.
actually, originally Will Ferrell was meant to play Watson,
Hmm.
and Sacha Baron Cohen was going to play Holmes, which I don't even want to think about.
Ugh.
Huh.
Yeah. Actually, from that, bumping Will Ferrell to Holmes is an upgrade, but I still don't want to see it.
Yeah, it's still
Just-
not on my hot list.
Hollywood put out the next RDJ Holmes movie
Hmm
with Guy Ritchie at the helm still, because I actually like Guy Ritchie's filming.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anywho, I think it's time for the review.
Yep. Okay. So I did it last week.
Mm-hmm. So it means it's
So-
down to me and Tim.
Yep. And we're not timing this. Just go ahead and somebody just needs to do a summary.
Do you want me to do it, Tim?
Yeah, if you do it this week, I'll do it next week.
All right, it'll be between you and Bill next week then. So, all right. So no stopwatch, even though I got a stopwatch ready.
Nope. We're not timing it. I said that earlier.
I gotta get ready before the stream. You never mentioned it to me before the stream. Anyway,
No.
I guess I'll just take you to this card then. All right. So we started off with the Doctor and crew landing inside of a box with the TARDIS, so the TARDIS is actually hidden from the outside. Getting out, they take a note of the box as well as the serial number on it so they can come back to it later and venture outside. They find that the city that they are in is extremely clean and they find it very unusual, but they also find a huge calendar date on a screen and have surmised that's around the year 2013, or was it 2003? 2003. Bumping into another stranger that finally comes down the road, they figure out that it is Space Date 2003, which they don't quite understand that yet. But the Doctor has his assumptions, as well as probably does Susan. So the entire crew decide to go with this man who's friendly enough to open up the doors of his home for them to visit, and sends a message off early to his wife that he is bringing in 4 extra guests for tonight. Also, what's going on at the same time is that a leader of this particular city, I want to say his name is the Great Inventor, is visiting. He's been apparently gone for quite some time. The crew finally shows up at the home. They start to learn of the oddities that are still going on, and the main crew, Ian and Barbara, finally figure out that this is not, in fact, on Earth. It is most likely a space colony, and that they have been away from Earth for much, much longer. It's far more into their distant future than they thought. This great inventor apparently helped the locals when they first came here to help put down a alien race that became suddenly very aggressive after their landing. They were trying to bring peace with these creatures, however, they turned very vicious and started fighting. The Great Inventor helped them push the creatures out of the city, and they were allowed to build in peace, for at least the time being. The Great Inventor finally starts his announcements, while at the same time his robots have one by one picked up the Doctor and companions after they have been reported in, because they peacefully want to report themselves in, since they are travelers, and they are expected to eventually possibly bump into other travelers, especially from Earth, since it's been a while and they've probably traveled quite the distance. It might eventually happen. They are one by one brought into the Great Inventor's house, but after Ian and Susan end up there first, Susan recognizes the Great Inventor. He is a friend of her grandfather's, or at least a someone that is known to her through the family, in particular from her grandfather, and he recognizes her in turn. She tries to help Ian get out of there, but it is soon revealed that this old companion of the family can hypnotize people and sends Ian into a stupor, and sends a robot to also help Susan out of the room into a more or less prison cell. He continues to use his mind manipulations on Ian to learn all the information he can from him, as well as set in mind a idea that he just wants to help himself and Barbara to get back to Earth. The Doctor and Barbara finally appear, and the Doctor has seen the message from the Great Inventor and instantly recognized who he truly is, and he is the Master. Getting to his studio, they have a confrontation. Ian, Barbara, and Susan are forced outside after the Master has shown him his great scheme within the building, which is technically a protective time barrier inside, so it can actually progress through time in a matter of minutes instead of weighing the actual course of time. While outside, about 10 years had passed. He promises to let the Doctor live and maybe even take over his project and help the people become more peaceful if he just hands over the keys to his TARDIS and lets him escape. The Doctor finally relents and hands him the TARDIS key with the plan to find Susan and quickly get to the TARDIS as soon as possible. However, at the same time, the Master tricks Barbara and Ian into going to the TARDIS, and they find it first, and after a bit of hypnotism, they let him inside the TARDIS. He tries to take off, however, apparently the Doctor's meddling has caused the TARDIS to become unstable and unpredictable, even under the Master's control, and he is forced to land back down yet again, apparently about 2 years later, in the exact same spot. So, with that done, Susan and the daughter from the family that first met have been safely inside the Great Inventor's base and finally come out as well. Finally meet up with everybody. They also see the Great Inventor run off to his base and try to start doing a message, however he's stopped and interfered by the Doctor. Apparently he has cut the power to the base and has now sealed himself in essentially his own little self-made prison. Apparently the locals were quite happy that the Doctor decided to reroute the power to other things that they could use to actually help rebuild. So the Master is left in his own self-made prison that was also the center core of his TARDIS, while the others are allowed to finally go back to the Blue Box and continue their adventures. The end.
Very good.
Lost my
Yeah.
mic for a moment there. Yes,
Yep.
very good, Matt.
Okay.
All right. So, things you liked about it, and rolling. Tim, you're up first, followed by Bill, who I will read for, and then you, Matt.
Okay, I really love the way time travel is presented in this episode. That the idea of you get see how it affects people like taking the long way through time versus people taking the short way through time. Where is meeting up with people, like just the concept of this idea of the people of Destination meeting up with Susan and the Doctor after they've been in the special room. It really appeals to my imagination, that this idea. Sort of.
Okay. Yeah, it was a little different the way that Doctor Who normally handles time travel. But yeah, you get the difference of the long road versus the short road that the Doctor usually takes. All right, so Bill put down he really liked the scheme of playing both sides against the middle for his own ends that the Master did. It was really something that he felt was in the Master's style, and yeah, it really was.
And it wasn't just the alien race suddenly turning against him this time when his schemes start to backfire.
All right.
Actually,
and then I believe you were up. You were up next, Matt.
I'm next. Overall general thing I liked that the cast, even though they're not exactly pitch perfect compared to their originals, they are similar enough and also different enough from each other that you can tell who's everybody. That seems to be a problem with some of you guys, and I think this one was actually probably one of the better ones that we've had thus far. And I could definitely tell who was trying to play who at any given time, except for maybe one of the girls.
Yeah, I'm actually going to talk about that on the negative side because I had a little more issue. But
it stood up pretty well to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's me but the daughter of the two scientists on the planet that Susan became friends with. I just got this impression of Ace from her.
A bit.
A slight hint of it, maybe, yeah.
A bit, but no, it's definitely not Ace's actress.
No, it's definitely not her actress, and definitely too young, or played too young.
I know it wasn't. I know it wasn't Sylvie Aldred, but I just got that impression.
All right.
Of, like the character. Okay.
All right. So, Aaron, you're next.
I like the banter between the Doctor and the Master. I kind of liked it did like any good playoff between the Master and the Doctor. It's the Doctor knows just how to jibe the Master. They know just how to go back and forth and like tease each other and try to outwit each other, and I felt that came through here too. I think they did a pretty good job at that, especially closer to the end too. So yeah, I enjoyed the back and forth between the Doctor and the Master, personally.
Oh, yeah, and actually what I liked was the guy that played the Master. This is his first outing as the Master. This was not somebody...
Go ahead.
And he had, not played it previously in anything else, so he was coming to it fresh. And he managed to do a very decent job, especially with what he was given. You could tell it was the Master. Every now and then he seemed to channel a little Delgado or a little Ainley. But you could tell he at least he knew his stuff.
Yeah, he knew what he was definitely walking into at this point.
Now, are we to assume that this is a Master before the Delgado Master that he regenerates sometime?
Yes.
Before
this one is theoretically the original Master, the first Master. The older version of the one that the Doctor knew as a child. Theoretically.
At least they haven't given us any reason to warrant that there might be an older generation yet.
Right. Well, because we knew that the Delgado Master was actually one of the Master's final regenerations. He had squandered all of his lives in disguises and stuff, but this was just after he left Gallifrey.
Apparently, yeah.
So somewhere between now and the Delgado era, he basically winds up spending all of his lives just regenerating over and over and over again, to hide from authorities and whatnot. Okay, so we said what we liked. Now on to what we didn't like. Tim, you are no, was it Tim first?
It was
Tim first.
Thought so, by power of deduction, if nothing else.
Now, I don't know if you could call this a pacing problem, but I thought the plot of the war between the two races was resolved too soon. When the doctor gets announced and like reveals that the inventor has been playing all for fools, and they immediately put down their guns. And I'm noticing that the the drama has about 20 minutes left of airtime. It's like, wait, what are they going to do now? Like, I mean, I guess they filled it up pretty neatly, but still, like, it was kind of awkward, I think.
Yeah, the pacing was a little weird. Um, in that way, it actually managed to capture classic Who pretty well.
Yeah.
Because
They'd always have a odd time trying to figure out how to
Where
pace certain
I
parts.
was expecting a 1 hour to 2 hour episode, and I think this one ran out for about 2.5. Because the the second two episodes seemed to go for like 15 to 20 minutes longer than they should have.
But is the original series like the big conflict is resolved, and then the rest of the time is just spent uh, cleaning things up, so to speak?
Can be sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
As
Not usually so much, but sometimes they would rush it till the very end and resolve it in a huff. And
Randy, the entirety of the play time was 2 hours and 2 minutes.
really,
I
it
still
Two
felt
hours,
haven't.
longer.
2 minutes, and 7 seconds.
Because I was looking at the end of it. I was looking at the end of episode 2 last time because we had a live stream at 9:30. And I'm looking at about 8:15, and the episode 2 was just getting over, and I'm going, okay, so there should be an hour left, and we ran it right up to the wire, and we didn't pause it for anything.
Still
So
need to see episodes of the
I'm not
first
sure
Doctor.
what you had there then, because I'm looking at it right now.
hey, I'm only telling you what happened to us. So
Mm.
all right. So Bill had put down. He couldn't recognize the voice of Susan. It was pretty clear to me that the actor was chosen on physical, not vocal resemblance. And yeah, I agree with Bill. That's the case, I think, for most of these actors. Is remember that these are the ones that were originally hired for Adventures in Space and Time,
Mm-hmm.
the Gaddis thing. So they were, and they didn't have much of a speaking role in there because most of that focused on the behind-the-scenes producer and
But with
the
the producers,
character.
the writers, and William Hartnell himself, yeah.
Yeah, so they had like very little speaking time, and I noticed back in there that's like, wow, the person that they got that Susan looks like Susan but doesn't sound like Susan. So when I heard that they were doing these for Big Finish Audios, I'm like, and they got the original cast from Adventures in Space and Time, I'm like, really?
Yeah, because you want to cast audio adventures based on looks.
Right. You want to cast them based on looks and not what they sound like.
You know, I just heard you guys say that now, and I got a picture of Christopher Eccleston with the eye roll.
Because, it's just, you could have somebody who looks like 1980s Tom Selleck, but if he opens his mouth and sounds like Kermit the Frog, you're not going to want to cast him in an audio drama.
Nope.
Hi ho, Magnum PI here.
Howdy ho!
I think I'll go check up on Higgins and see if he's discovered anything. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Gets to Higgins' office. Ah!
Yeah, it's you. That is an issue, and it's something Big Finish should have thought of when they cast these people. So they casted them solely
Because they were
the
part of that special, yeah.
yeah, and for the possible fan base oohs and ahs of that, without kind of thinking that this was not bright. All right, so Moving on.
Goes to me then, because that was Bill's.
Yes, that was Bill's.
Yeah, I have to agree that while the cast was at least distinctive sounding enough, and they did try to at least do inflections similar to the original actors, they obviously were not the original actors.
Yeah, and some of their inflections didn't work either. A couple of them didn't have the same accent.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't like Ian and Barbara in particular, they didn't have the right accents.
Yep, and mind you, I was never really that sold on them when they were in the actual Adventures in Space and Time. The actress that got Susan, yes, looks unbelievably like Susan, eerily
yeah.
so. The others only kind of looked vaguely.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. Even Ian, like the least of them, I think, looks even
it's
like Ian.
They look vaguely like it if you squint enough.
Mm-hmm. Squint and tilt your head to the right.
Yeah. And then they sounded nothing like them, so I was not wholly bought on that part, and then you get in here and it's made even more obvious without any kind of visual reference. And there has to be good enough voice impersonators out there that can do
You would think so.
At least a Ian that sounds like Ian.
And maybe a Barbara that sounds something similar to Barbara.
Well, finding female vocal impersonators isn't quite as easy.
You'd still think there would be someone a little bit closer. Just a smidge.
But I will say this, it could be worse.
Oh, it could be a lot worse. At least they actually acted.
No, that's not what I was going to say. They could have just had Nick Briggs try to do all the voices.
Oh, God. Yeah, at least they didn't have Nick Briggs doing all the voices, including the robots. At least it sounded like they actually did a robotic voice with somebody else. If they even used anybody. It's probably better if they just did machines for that.
I'll talk about that in a minute.
But anyways, I believe it's on to Aaron now.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and see. I think the Del Mari just kind of came off as a little kind of, I don't know. They didn't really seem that unique, and they were just kind of out there. Like, they were your typical space reptiles, basically. Space reptile aliens. I don't know if I don't even remember hearing very much about their culture or anything like that. I know they comment about what happened to them was similar to what happened on Earth with the Native Americans and stuff being slaughtered. And the whole wars with that. But yeah, I think you could have backed it up a little bit more with just a little bit more interest in the aliens. They were just kind of boring for me.
Yeah, the only thing that was interesting for me about them is that their description and stuff reminded me of a alien race from a novel I used to read called Bill the Galactic Hero, called The Chingers. But of course they weren't, so they were just generic lizard aliens, really. I thought they could have done a little more with that. So I was a little disappointed in them. So then we get up to me, and my thing that I didn't like is I didn't like the robot voice. But only because they distorted it enough that I couldn't
quite hear it sometimes.
Yes, not all the time.
Not all the time,
and later on I adapted to it, but especially in the first episode or two, they say, and you're like, what the fuck are they saying?
Actually, I had it kind of the reverse. The first couple times was clear, and then there was a couple times in the middle where it's just like, what? I didn't catch that. Could you pass that by again?
Yeah, it was the distortion they used was a touch too high.
Yeah, I need to find that middle ground.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't understand that. You either have to have it a touch or whatever. Some of it should be making up by the actor learning how to speak like a robot.
Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing too, is maybe the actor needed to enunciate more.
Yeah, I think so. And the BBC back in the day trained people to do this shit. That's how the Dalek voice came out.
Mm-hmm. They would have had it nailed.
Yes.
Speaking of Daleks, by the way, it was nice of them to mention them in this.
Yes.
They're like, oh, look at those things. Well, at least it's not Daleks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was always good. And at least they didn't mention it. Well, yeah, this would have been not long after the Daleks.
Yeah, this would probably have been sometime after the dogs and not too long afterward.
Yeah. But yeah, the voice was just far too unreadable for me to enjoy it much. Okay, so favorite scene. And
Tim.
Tim is up.
I love the scene where Susan escapes from her jail cell by shorting out the robot, and just that the interplay between Susan and her friend. Friend is like, Susan, what are you doing here? Oh, the doctor, the great inventor said you're a bad person. I was like, oh, I should just leave the tray. It's like, you know, and I for I don't know why. Just that scene just appeals to me somehow. Uh, like, well, not too many scenes in this episode really stood out, but for some reason I like that one.
All right. Well, that's fair. Bill had this to say. He thought his favorite was he was unable to remember specific scenes because he was unable to give this a second listen. He's been listening to the 12-hour full cast version of World War Z for one of his classes.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, that'll mess things up too.
Yep, and he believes the scene in which the local knowledge takes the master's place was pretty touching. Okay. Whatever, Bill. I'm not sure. Matt.
My favorite scene is the introduction to the master. Susan is later brought into this room with this stranger, and it takes her a few seconds, but you instantly hear in her voice that she recognizes this guy, and this is bad. And you definitely, as the guy talks, you get that slimy evil in his voice, and you're just like, oh, this has got to be the master. They just nailed that scene perfectly, and then he just slowly goes into that methodical trance voice, and you just listen to Ian being taken in real quick, and it takes a little while to get Susan to finally quiet down too, and she gets carted away by a robot. It just exudes a really good master introduction.
Yep. All right. And I think Aaron, I think you're next.
I think it was the one where the I can't quite remember, but it was the one where the doctor, like, it's the one that reminded me best of the banter of between the doctor and the master when they first meet, and he's just like, well, I pretty much know who you are, you can't be pretending, or you can't fool me and all that. So I think I'm gonna go ahead with that one.
All right. For me, I think the first ever chronological statement of "I am the master and you will obey me." You hear it and you're just like, okay, we got it.
He's done it. He's in. He's officially part of the fold now.
Yep. All right. So what we didn't like, and Tim, you are up.
I think we're on least favorite scene.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. What you didn't like, your least favorite scene. Sorry,
okay.
Not general, specific.
I didn't like the scene where the doctor sees the footage of the great inventor and instantly recognizes him. Is like, oh, we'll see, and he's all like, we'll see about this. Simply because I think it would have been much more effective if the doctor first saw the great inventor in person. But
yeah, I actually have to agree with that. I would have liked it if he would have avoided the video altogether and only just saw him face to face.
Yep.
It just seems like a missed opportunity that they
just for them to meet face to face and just go, you.
It would have been nice for just the long pause, which you could just where you can just mentally imagine them just glaring at each other.
Because it makes it even more awkward. They're trying to go out of their way to avoid naming the master until the big last line of part one, where it's like,
I think it would have been great if they sat there dumbfounded at each other and was just like, and they both said "you" at the same time. Like the master was setting this up but wasn't expecting the doctor wasn't expecting the master. And then you'd have the master just hatching the plan.
Well, I think by this time the master would have been expecting the doctor because he had seen Susan.
Yeah.
Oh, true. No, I think
he'd be expecting the doctor, but he wouldn't know when that would actually happen until it happens.
Yeah, I think
it'll be a stern
if
you from the doctor, and it'll be the master going, "Ah, yes, you."
I think it would have been even funnier if the doctor had been the one to meet him for the first time, and you just had that long pause followed by the simultaneous "you," with the absolute revulsion in both of their voices. But that's
actually, it would be revulsion on the doctor, and I think it'll be slimy. Oh yes, revenge time from the master.
It would have been very funny if the master had been with his granddaughter.
Ugh, no, that'd be kind of cringy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what Bill didn't like was the scene revealing why the master is on destination. He thought it was an not really a climax, but just kind of non-catchy intro, kind of a generic thing for the master. His statement was, he crashed his TARDIS? Seriously? Can't you at least let him be a threat in his earliest chronological appearance?
Oh, he crashed it because he grabbed it too early, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually technically explains a lot of the Master's issues with his TARDIS throughout the rest of the series.
Well, as much as I hated that particular scene, the concept of the fact that, remember Clara going back in the Doctor's time stream and said, no, take this one, you'll have a lot more fun? I mentally imagined the Master took the one that Clara steered him away from.
That's a possibility, too, because that one could have been the one that fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
That would have made that scene make a lot more sense. Trust me, you don't want that one.
You don't want that one. It'll break down on your first trip. You want this one. You won't get to find out where you're going, but trust me, you'll go to where you need to. Yeah. All right. So,
scene I didn't like.
Yeah.
And
you know what? We're an hour in and we're almost done.
Yeah.
Woo! Conan Exiles.
Conan Exiles tonight.
Or sleep.
I think what I want to go with was the most cringy is like there's the first time they meet the reptilian aliens in the sewers. The mother of that family was just so overly eagerly gun ho to the point of, how are you not kill crazy? Like, I understand she has a hate for these particular aliens because they probably did something to her family a generation or so back. But criminy, lady, cool it a little bit. She was pretty much almost gun ho to the point that she wanted to kill the Doctor too.
Yeah, that was vendetta. Vendetta's never a good thing.
Yeah, so that just kind of ruined the moment for me because she was a little too over the top in that particular scene.
All right, Aaron.
I'm gonna go ahead and take a pass at this because there wasn't anything that I absolutely hated, to be honest.
All right, so my least favorite scene was right at the beginning where they're doing the whole thing. Welcome to the space year 2003. I'm sorry. They really should have had something a little more poignant of way for having them mistake it for Earth.
Yeah, I was listening to that and I'm just kind of like, space year, what does that mean?
Space year. And meanwhile, While you're in the space year 2003, you should enjoy our space fries here at Spacey's. Yeah, it kind of felt like that. It honestly did.
And here's our space zoo with the first ever collection of aquatic space ducks. Quack!
Well, yes, welcome to Space Earth, and welcome to Space Australia's. Beware the space dingoes. Yeah, it was just kind of. All right, we get it. You're in space. Yeah.
My space armor.
Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like. It was just a little bit too much on the space thing. It made me want to space. I kind of spaced out on it. All right. So that's honestly it up to the point of reviewing and final thoughts. So, Tim,
Final
you are
thoughts,
starting
Tim.
the boat for final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I thought this was a pretty okay episode. Now, is this the first episode with Doug Bradley?
Yes.
Yeah.
So a good start for him.
Unless he's done
as
other Big Finish performances, but this
Not
is
that I'm
definitely
aware of.
as the Big Finish. Good master. I don't think this master was as memorable as Jeffrey Beavers is.
No, but Jeffrey Beavers had priors too.
Mm-hmm. This is the first outing for this master too, so all considering.
Yeah, considering he still did a passable job. Susan and the rest of the cast, I can leave them behind without regret. But other than that, this episode and the cast, crew, and storyline was pretty good.
All right. Bill's final thoughts were he didn't think it was bad, but he didn't think it was all that good either. It was a little meandering and felt repetitious at times, though it was sort of in tune with the era it was set in. It was also hurt by the hype of being the Master's first appearance, which one would think is a great story, but this isn't quite that. The new cast also had some kinks to work out. 3 out of, well, I'll just say it now, 3 out of 5. I'll set the bar for you guys. All right. Go ahead, Matt.
Overall thoughts. The main cast that we want to pay attention to is the Doctor and the Master, and they did a fantastic job on their first outing as an audio adventure. The others stood out as individuals, sadly not as their actual characters. Perhaps with a little bit of coaching they might be able to fix it. Otherwise, I would suggest maybe finding some more better sound-alikes. As a matter of fact, I believe Susan's original actress is still with the Big Finish, and she could probably do that job, more or less.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we've experienced it. She can do it. Otherwise, serviceable plot. Not completely undercutting the menace of the Master, but not always giving him a solid ending either. But for the most part, it was a generally pretty decent story.
Okay.
Next.
Aaron?
Yeah, I was okay with this one. I felt it was kind of a little bit boring and a little bit, I didn't really get into the acting. I feel that while I was kind of excited to hear these actors, because I really enjoyed An Adventure in Space and Time, actually hearing them kind of wasn't that thrilling. They were kind of a little bit stiff and everything, and the story itself was a little bit confusing and a little, I don't know, I just didn't have much interest in what was going on, so it didn't seem to grab me, I guess. Maybe if the acting was a little bit more enthusiastic and the plot and the enemies were a little bit more pushed a little bit further, it could have been really a standout one. But as this one, as it is now, it's pretty mediocre for me.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So as for me, yeah, I'm agreeing with the group on this one. The acting of both, even to an extent, David Bradley looks more like William Hartnell than he sounds. Sorry about that. I lost. I had an ad pop up on me. Suddenly couldn't hear a thing.
Oh, okay.
Anyway. Yeah. David Bradley looks more like Hartnell than sounds. And you could kind of tell in here, but still, as you went on, Bradley became more believable, but less so with the companions. Really, the Master was the highlight in this because he managed to kind of catch his role almost right away and took off with it. But still, the plot felt longer than it should. It felt a little lackadaisical, for lack of a better term. And you just kind of went, okay, well, that happened. It's not great, but it's not bad, but it's not good. Okay, so ratings, Tim.
So Bill set the standard with the 3. I think I'm going to be more generous and give this a 3.5.
Okay. All right. Bill set the bar at 3. And Tim makes that a 3.5. All right. Matt.
I think I'm with Tim on this one. It was good, not great, and definitely not perfect.
Aaron?
I'm going to go ahead and side with Bill and give it a 3.
And the cider goes to Randy.
I'm going to side with Bill and Aaron on this one. It was kind of mediocre for me. It wasn't good enough to rate a good, not great. I'm sorry, it just didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
And well, that makes me a little leery about next week when we get basically another episode in the same vein minus the Master.
Dun dun dun.
Anyway, all things considered, that averages out to a 3.2, which will put us
just above mediocre.
Yeah, well, actually, mediocre's below par on our ratings.
Well, that's the overall ratings.
Yeah.
That's not like the actual rating.
The Destination Wars comes out at 179 of 237. It is really far down there. It is on par with Arc of Infinity, Robot, The Pandorica Opens, Big Bang, Time Lash, Companion Chronicles of the Mahogany Murders, and The Daleks' Master Plan.
Right there, Time Lash, Tim.
It is better than Earthshock, Cold War, Rings of Forgotten, Coach with the Dragon Tattoo from Class, Asylum of the Daleks, The Mysterious Planet, Planet of Fire, Survival, and The Sea Devils, but not as good as Stones of Blood, Modern Undead, Class for Tonight We Must Die. It scored lower than than an episode of Class.
Ouch.
Evil of the Daleks, Force of the Night, Planet of the Daleks, Vengeance of the Stones, and yeah, that's it. 179 of 237 is all we have to say for Class.
But hey, this Destination Wars, you're still better than the Dalek Asylum of the Daleks.
Yeah, well, a good chunk of the bad rating on Asylum of the Daleks too was the fact that it was horribly overhyped.
Horribly overhyped and just badly implemented.
Yes. It got me pretty pissed.
It was pretty shite, and it's only gotten shiter with every viewing. Anyways, so I guess that means it's up to me to do the end title card then?
Yes, please, because I don't have that information. You probably have it better than I do.
Yep, because I actually have the title card and I can look at it. So thank you all very much for watching us and joining us on the Unearthly podcast. Hope you enjoy the new, faster, sleeker time frame we're trying to go for. We're just barely over an hour. So if you want to join us, you can join us on YouTube at Unearthly Podcast, Twitch at Unearthly Podcast, and if you want to follow us elsewhere, you can join us on Twitter at Unearthly Pod, Facebook at Unearthly Podcast, and if you really want to help us out even further than just views and likes and talking to us on the videos, you can also help out financially speaking through Patreon at Unearthly Podcast.
Yes, and then starting next week, like I said, we are going to go ahead and we're done with the Master this season, finally, after an entire season of Master specials.
How long have
However,
you been doing it, by the way?
we started this season
December,
in
November?
October.
October.
Yeah, with Terror of the Autons back on the 4th of October.
Dang.
And we are a
Finally had a master. We burnt them all.
So we're going to continue with another First Doctor adventure next time since we have the set.
Might as well.
We are going to listen to and review Big Finish First Doctor Adventures, The Great White Hurricane, written by Guy Adams and starring David Bradley as the Doctor, Claudia Grant as Susan Foreman, Jamie Glover as Ian Chesterton, and Gemma Powell as Barbara Wright.
Oh dear,
So
here we go.
We'll see you next week.
Cross your fingers.
Yeah.
Good night.
Nighty night.
Good night.